Hey gearheads, and welcome to a really cool edition of Shifting Gears. The South Point Casino 400 just wrapped up here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. As you can see, the cars are going through post-race tech. We got a chance to catch up with some of the drivers. We're going to talk about why Kyle Larson's dominant victory out here doesn't necessarily mean that he's won the championship already, or has it, and who has the best shot at qualifying for the Final Four heading into Phoenix, and who really needs to get a victory sometime in the next 2 weeks. With 3 races remaining in the 2023 season, we'll break it all down today on Shifting Gears. I'm Alan Bailey, and before we talk about what we saw today at Las Vegas, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video, and log on to AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Honestly, pretty interesting race out here today. You had moments that were phenomenally good. You had some stages of the race that kind of were a little so-so. Honestly, the consensus here in the media center and in the garage area was meh. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was somewhere in the middle. It was adequate. And you don't really want an adequate race, as we hear one of the jet dryers going off on the racetrack for some reason. Honestly, looking at the finishing order right here, Kyle Larson gets the victory over Christopher Bell. Barely Christopher Bell missed out on a victory and qualifying for the Final Four for the second year in a row. Kyle Busch comes home third with Brad Keselowski fourth, Ross Chastain fifth, Ryan Blaney sixth with William Byron seventh, Tyler Reddick eighth, Martin Truex Jr. ninth, 10th to Denny Hamlin, and the other playoff drivers, Chris Buescher coming home 11th, not what he wanted out here today. And technically we do have Chase Elliott, who is an owner's playoff eligible driver, who came home 32nd out here today. Honestly, Larson owned this. He got both stage victories and just really was up and in the top 5 all day. You had comers and goers, but his pit crew honestly got it done on pit road, as my papers go flying here in the area. But let's go ahead and break this down, not necessarily lap by lap, but kind of the big points that we saw out here today in the South Point 400 out Las Vegas. The 99 and the 9 both started at the rear due to losing tires and crashing and having to go to backup cars. They were struggling to get those cars ready. They both barely got out to pit road by the time that this race started, with less than an hour before the green flag dropped. That's cutting it pretty tight, but they got that job done. Cars look pretty good too. Kudos to the 99, who honestly wrapped that entire thing, and it looked like the primary. It looked wonderful. And then you had Hendrick Motorsports, who don't really wrap the cars or don't carry the wraps for some reason for their sponsors, so the colors are a little off, a little odd. It looked a lot better this time though, but still a little bit weird. Lap 3, he took the lead. Larson takes the lead on lap number 3 and just never looked back. Lap 29, Bell takes the lead back again, showing that he early on had the long run speed and that Larson only had maybe that short run speed. That was kind of interesting. Then lap 31, the 3 pits first and starts the green flag pit stop cycle very early on, by the way. I think everybody wanted to come in and get that out of the way, and honestly, we saw some comers and goers right there. We saw the order definitely jumble up, and things got very interesting. The one car sped on pit road, and Chastain had to go to the do a drive-through penalty, but the 5 ended up taking the lead back on lap number 40. Then lap 65, we saw the 43 of Eric Jones lose a tire when he was running 15th. The 99 ended up getting the free pass right there. A lot of cars took the wave around. The 3, the 14, the 47, the 77, the 21, the 1, the 9, the 4, the 7, the 2, the 38, the 15, and the 51 all took the wave around right there. And yes, Elliott and the 99 of Chastain both struggled early on in this race in order to make up ground, which I thought was very odd, because this track, you can pass here. It's a little tough for the first run, but those drivers, especially Elliott, really should have picked it up and gone forward without really any issue. And we saw a big issue out of Elliott in particular. He was struggling, and I think 10 laps in, he had only made up like 2 or 3 spots. And when you're struggling to pass, honestly, a Rick Ware car That's an issue if you're Chase Elliott. Honestly, he's had an off year. There's no way around it. Statistically, his worst season, dating back to his rookie season, is what we're seeing in 2023. And I hate it for Chase Elliott fans after winning the regular season last year. That's not what you want to see from your driver, but unfortunately, you're just going to have some off years. Hopefully they can regroup and bring something back in 24 stronger than ever. We're going to have to wait and see. They are releasing their paint scheme either this week or next week, sometime in the next couple weeks, so keep an eye out for that. But lap 72, Bell led on the restart, but it only took one lap for the 5 car to go ahead and grab that lead, showing that Larson definitely had the short run speed in this race. Larson went ahead and grabbed the Stage 1 victory. The 17 did not get points. The only playoff driver who did not score points in Stage number 1, which was very odd. Lap number 87, the 19 ended up leading on the restart. He stayed out. Controversial call because these guys only had a certain amount of tires. Tires made a pretty big advantage out here, but track position was key. So honestly, Joe Gibbs Racing playing a little Russian roulette there, and it kind of bit them because they went from leading the race to falling well outside the top 15, almost outside the top 20, somehow held on to that, and then eventually they got very lucky on lap 111. The 42 loses a tire while running 21st and ends up hitting the wall, bringing out the caution. The 19 needed that, and they definitely came in and got 4 tires after that. Then on lap 118, we had the 6 car leading on the restart and pulling away. Brad Keselowski for the middle part of this race looked pretty dominant, and it looked for a while there like Brad was going to finally get a victory in that 6 car for RFK. And it was looking really, really, really promising. And it just never panned out for him. He didn't have the speed here at the end. They didn't keep up with the adjustments. They didn't have the speed, what have you. But there was no doubt about it. The 3 cars that were dominant out here today were the 20 of Christopher Bell, the 5 of Larson, and that 6 of Keselowski, which is honestly really great for NASCAR. It's really great for these teams because it shows that all the manufacturers were competitive out here today and that no one manufacturer dominated really because all 3 showed up today out here in Las Vegas. Kudos to them for that, honestly. But Larson had a very interesting moment on lap 140. He ended up getting very loose off of 2, very loose. I don't think anybody but Kyle Larson could have saved that thing, and he ends up saving it. He tags that wall as he got very loose. It looked really cool in the onboard camera, honestly, as they're removing one of the temporary screens out here on the rollbacks to take out to Homestead, Miami next week out here with us. And honestly, Larson just kept going. No yellow. Everybody in the media center was going yellow, 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 which didn't make any sense because he slid. There was a little bit of smoke. He tagged that wall, but even Larson, when he came down pit road, the 5 crew didn't do anything to that car. They just changed tires and acted, the sheet metal bent a little, no big deal. It was nowhere near a tire, so it made sense to leave it alone. And with these composite bodies, you can tap the wall a little bit and keep going, and there's no issue, so long as you keep those tires clear, which is exactly what they did. Then Larson ended up on lap 143, a few laps later, the 48 tagged the wall caution, and he ended up stopping it down in 1 and 2. I was down there taking some photos, and we'll put some of those up right now. Honestly, I was a little worried because he came to a pretty abrupt stop, and I was getting flashbacks to Texas last year when he got the concussion, and my heart stopped for a second there. But he got out, he was evaluated here at the medical center and released. No issues for him, no concussion-like symptoms so far. And he kept going, or I should say that was the end of the day for the 48 team, unfortunately. Then on lap 150, the 6 led on the restart, but only 5 laps later, Larson took the lead again and then went on to win stage number 2 on lap 166. Then Bell grabbed the lead on lap 172 restart. We saw a pretty decent little green flag run there, over 30 laps, which was pretty impressive. And then lap 210, the 14 car spins from 25th in turn number 2. Caution again flew out here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Then lap 216, Larson led on the restart and kind of pulled away a little bit, but then problems almost immediately because the 54 had a wheel come off, caution, and the 14 car was the free pass on that. Lap 221, Larson got the lead on the restart, and with 47 to go, just kind of pulled away a little bit right there. But lap 2 6 laps after the restart, we found out from NASCAR that the 9 car didn't really have a good restart there, and they penalized him with a drive-through. I was kind of amazed to see this because A, it was Chase Elliott, and B, we haven't seen NASCAR make that call all day long. They made the same call with A.J. Allmendinger earlier in the race, and that was mind-boggling to us in the media center because it's kind of a stick-and-ball judgment-based call, and NASCAR has had those issues in the Cup Series this season, and they haven't called them. And now in the playoffs, with 4 races to go, now 3 races to go in the 2023 season, they're starting to make those calls. You could tell NASCAR's trying to change this, and they're trying to be a little bit more strict with what they see on the racetrack. Kudos to NASCAR. That's what they should do. I'm all for policing the sport appropriately when it's obvious. And I can guarantee you NASCAR looked at loop data, and they confirmed that Chase Elliott did something fishy that he shouldn't have done. And I know Chase Elliott fans are going to moan and groan, but Chase Elliott did something he shouldn't have done. That's what it boils down to. Lap 237, the 5 car hit 1,000 laps led in the 2023 season. That is just insane to me. And that was with 29 laps to go. Then lap 240, the 54 of Ty Gibbs had another tire go down. He hits the wall in 1 and 2, but no caution with about 26 laps to go. Honestly, I was kind of amazed, and kudos to Joe Gibbs Racing because they came down pit road and they said, hey, something's going on with the tire. There's a tire rub. Let's fix this before we get him back out there. And they never really did, unfortunately. That was more or less the end of their day with about 26 laps to go. Then on lap 245, the 20 car moved into second with 21 laps to go. The lead was 1.8 seconds at the time, and Christopher Bell just started just a little bit, chipping away. And then white flag, they're not bumper to bumper, but they're within a couple of car lengths. And then obviously coming to the line, it was really tight right there. Another couple laps, probably Christopher Bell could have gotten him, but we didn't see that. So it was very interesting. Honestly, I got to talk about the things that we didn't see in the broadcast that I experienced being here in person. Namely, drivers meeting. That's kind of where the day started. We had drivers, namely Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney and Daniel Suarez, all standing at the entrance of the drivers meeting, unable to get a seat simply because so many people were in the outdoor drivers meeting. You could see the neon garage behind me. I love this garage. I love the fact that they do the drivers meeting here. However, they clearly need more seats. They need to widen these aisles because there are so many people going to the drivers meeting these days that they simply just need the capacity. And I mean, you had Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, and Daniel Suarez all, frankly, show up late to the drivers meeting, and there was no real call from NASCAR on that. A lot of leniency from NASCAR because of the location of this area and the fact that Las Vegas Motor Speedway essentially had a red carpet for these guys to walk down, and fans on both sides, treating them like the rock stars they are, kept them from getting to that drivers meeting as quick as they could because these drivers were stopping and they were signing. You had the veterans like Harvick who would sign 1 or 2 autographs and then just blow past everybody, but you had some of the younger drivers who were stopping and signing 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 autographs. I'm not exaggerating, and they were taking their time getting to the drivers meeting. And honestly, I applaud NASCAR for giving them the leniency because of the setup here at Las Vegas, but at the same time, we got to follow the rules, and that rule wasn't really followed by those drivers. All those drivers, in theory, should have gone to the back, and it would have been a very interesting storyline to see Ryan Blaney try to drive to the front, but honestly, they didn't make that call. The other thing was the stands were not full here. I do not know what TV and radio were reporting, but I'm here to tell you maybe 50%, if that. I have some photos that I took at the beginning of the race, mid-race, and at the end of the race, and these stands were not full. They were not even at 50% capacity, really, especially the outskirt ones. Honestly, it was hot. It was only in the 80s out here in Las Vegas, and I know that's not hot for Vegas, but because we're in the desert and we're in the sun and there's literally no shade anywhere, and I know I'm in the shade right now, haha, I'm one to talk, but there was no shade here for these fans. I'm standing in a stairwell right now with the neon garage behind me, but these fans had no reprieve. And yes, there's a lot of midway stuff. There's a lot of spots under the grandstands where fans can go, and there's a lot of space in this neon garage that fans can go, and a lot of fans were here in the neon garage. But for the most part, It's very hot out here. Why is this not a night race? Why is every race in the middle of the desert, Las Vegas, out in, I'll even put Texas on that list, and especially Phoenix, why aren't these races at night? Or at least in the twilight hours? We started at 11:30 in the morning local time. It was just starting to heat up, and by about the midway point of the race, it was the hottest point ever, and it is still pretty hot. Right now, it is a little after 3:30 local time. This was a pretty long race. It was pretty hot out here. I'm sweating. A lot of these guys were getting very hot, very sweaty. I don't know why NASCAR is doing this. I really do not. And I know they're catering to TV, and they're bending over backwards, doing everything they can to kiss TV's ass in order to get the best contract they can moving forward. I get that. But you are doing it at the expense of the fans, at the expense of the people here working in this garage area, at the people working on pit road, and you're losing money. People did not show up today because of the heat. Period. That's 100% what it is. Traffic coming in here is, I mean, it's a couple 100,000 people showing up to a race, and let me be frank, there wasn't 100,000 people here today. So there is going to be traffic, but Las Vegas does a phenomenal job with the traffic patterns coming into Las Vegas Motor Speedway. They have for decades, ever since they redesigned this track and built the Neon Garage. Local PD has done a phenomenal job working with NASCAR in order to really work on the traffic situation and make it so that traffic is, I don't want to say non-existent, but it is phenomenally better than it had been in years. So traffic isn't really the excuse. It's heat. It's the time of the day. It was phenomenally hot and miserable today, and honestly, I was ducking into the media center looking for some AC reprieve and chugging waters like there was no tomorrow. This building that I'm currently on, overlooking pit road, does provide a good amount of shade to a little bit of pit road, and a lot of fans were sitting on the ground just drenched in heat, clearly having heat exhaustion. There was a number of fans who were treated for heat exhaustion here at the racetrack. They are okay. We're not hearing any serious injuries coming out of that, but that's not good. NASCAR needs to move this to the twilight hours. Make it a Saturday night race, and I know TV won't like that, but honestly, make it a Sunday night race. It tends to do better for the ratings. Yes, you're going up against Sunday Night Football, but we need to move NASCAR out of the football time frame. This is a discussion that I've continued to harp and beat my chest and my drum on, and honestly, it's something that needs to happen because we saw the effects of it here today out in Las Vegas. Fans did not show up to this race because it was too hot. The heat was that much of a factor. Plus, you're coming to Las Vegas. It's extraordinarily easy to hang out in an air-conditioned casino with free booze than driving 15 miles north of the Strip in traffic in order to get to a seat that is under the hot sun. Why are we doing this? Why are we making it harder for fans to enjoy these races? It's a bad move by NASCAR. I hope that they adjust that. Now, as far as the drivers who didn't qualify for a spot today, I think the 17's in trouble. I think I really didn't see him making the Final Four going into this race, and now I really don't see him doing it. I think that Ford as a whole is struggling. I think that Blaney, this was kind of his shot to make that Final Four by winning out here today, by clinching out here today. And the fact that Larson did it really just locks in a guy that we already all wrote into the Final Four. The guys who we all are saying are going to make the Final Four, and whether they will or not has yet to be seen, the 5 car, the 24, and the 11. Those 3 drivers are more than likely going to make the Final Four and going to race for a championship out at Phoenix in 3 weeks' time. But who's that other driver? Are we going to see a non-playoff driver win sometime in the next 2 weeks and therefore see at least another driver point their way in? Who knows? We will see at least one driver point their way into that Final Four. Honestly, now I'm thinking it's the 20 car because he was so strong out here. A lot of the notes from this racetrack, in theory, should translate out to Homestead, Miami next week. Will they, though? I don't know. The fact that Christopher Bell won out at Martinsville last year is also giving me kind of notice that, yeah, that 20 car might actually make the Final Four. What he does when he gets out to Phoenix, who knows, because it all boils down to who has the best pit stop at the very end of the race and who gets off pit road first. but I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments down below, who do you think is going to make the Final Four and race for a championship out in Phoenix in 3 weeks' time? Who do you think is realistically going to have the best shot at winning out at Homestead Miami next week and Martinsville in 2 weeks' time? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you come back for the next video, and log on to AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please mash that subscribe button. Give me a follow on my social media accounts at HeyAlanBailey, because we are heading out to Phoenix in a couple weeks. Not going to be going to Homestead Miami, not going to Martinsville. That is not in the budget. I live in Los Angeles, and that's kind of blown the budget already, so admittingly. But I want to thank you guys for following along with me today. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.